The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelley Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra Biscornet, and I think everyone has a story to tell. What's yours?
I'm Deborah Monk. I'd like to empower people to find their creative voice.
And I'm Shelley Devlin, inspiring you to find your why. All right. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning on the Writer's Block. Last week, we had the honor of chatting with author and TV personality Mike Morin about how to use traditional mass media to promote your book. On today's show, we're going to discuss writing prompts. So prompts that can be used to trigger emotion, spark imagination, and break through that writer's block. Because let's face it, ladies, we've all stared at a blank page and a blank screen and thought, how do I even get started? So on today's show, we're going to offer a whole bunch of different writing prompts to use to just get those juices flowing and get your writing process started. Kind of like little tricks, right?
Right.
I researched and found one exercise, which I'm not willing to do, but I'm willing to cut it down. It was 365 days of writing prompt activity. So every single day
yeah. They had a different prompt?
Which I think would be super successful, except I am not willing to do that. So I went with Mandra.
Which part?
How about a 30-day writing prompt?
Ah, yes.
Right?
So meaning you have 30 prompts?
They had 365.
Wow.
You're
we
willing
could
to
do
do
that.
like a 30-day challenge of like
30-day
writing.
challenge.
Yeah.
Writing prompts for 30 days.
For a month. Yeah.
Why don't you take those 30 days and just work on your friggin' book?
Wow.
Ooh,
Did you hear that?
Jonathan.
Was that the voice of God right there?
I don't know.
Might have been the voice
I don't
of
know.
Purgatory
Something,
this week.
there's
Something's off.
Yeah.
Something's
Headset.
off on my headset today. 3 of them that I thought were amazing, which one was a dream catcher, right? Something you recently dreamed about. Because, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I had a dream. And then throughout the day, you're like, whoa.
It comes back
It comes
to you.
back to you. The details.
I usually forget about it. So
You forget about it?
Yeah, it would be great to wake up and write it right then.
Right. So I thought that was a good one.
Okay.
Right? Eavesdropper. I love that one. Create a short story or a journal entry about a conversation you overheard.
Oh, that would be fun.
I do that with a friend. We're out having a glass of wine or something, and we make up stories on all the people that we see at the other tables.
About what you think
Yes.
they're
What we
talking about?
Like, oh.
Oh, see, I like to tell stories. Like I imagine you look at a couple and you say they're breaking up or she loves him more than he loves her.
Oh, yeah.
So I do, yeah. So eavesdrop is the same kind of thing as write a story about a stranger.
Yeah. Kind of fun.
So
right?
you do that all the time when you're just out and about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
you?
We make them racy, too. Like if we see them park in the parking lot first and they've parked in the furthest end.
What does that mean?
It's
It
trouble.
means trouble. It means that they are not married. It's that they're having an affair. They
don't
park
wanna
in
be
the end of the parking
seen.
lot. They don't want to be seen.
I would think it means they're wearing a tracker and they're trying to count their steps.
Oh, that's
Well,
pretty
that's-
practical, Deb.
Yeah, it is. That's where
Yeah.
my brain should be
I was
going.
like, that
yeah.
sounded like Amanda right there. And what about mirror, mirror?
Mirror,
What about
mirror.
it? What is it?
What you might say if you said mirror, mirror.
Oh, wow.
Oh, if you finish the phrase on
Mirror,
the wall?
mirror on the wall.
What would you say? So I think it's important that we also share with our listeners how these prompts would get us going.
I'd say, who is that fat, wrinkled person in the mirror?
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Maybe that's just today. That's today.
I want to break that mirror for you. And then
You do? I wanted to break the mirror, too.
No, because I want that mirror. That's a bad mirror.
That's a bad mirror.
Bad mirror.
Terrible. But are you saying the whole thing like mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Or do you just say mirror, mirror and then go
No, but
somewhere else?
I think
Go
say
wherever
mirror, mirror
you
and
want.
go wherever you
Yeah,
want.
Nander, what would you fill in the blank if you were to if you had to do this mirror?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Mirror, mirror, where am I going? Like, what's the next 5 years?
Oh,
That's
so
kind of
you're
like
aware-
like a
you're looking-
fortune teller type of
Yes.
thing, like
Oh,
a seeing
that's
into the future. That's what I
interesting.
would ask. Yeah, that's how I see it, like a crystal ball type of thing.
Mm. She's
Wow.
seeing deeper than just the reflection.
Right.
Oh, Deb, yours
Yeah, I
is
mean,
going to
this
be
is a
like
special
some
mirror.
You're going to dance into the mirror and say, "Mirror, mirror."
Well, I do want to. Well, I do have. I went. I bought. In my
You bought a
garage.
mirror.
No, I actually got it for free on Craigslist. Two of
Okay.
them.
Okay.
They're about 8 feet tall.
Oh.
And about 4 feet wide. And they have wood around them. They were huge. I could only get one in my car at a time. They were all the way in Boston. It was a big warehouse that.
You made 2 trips to Boston to get 2 mirrors.
Yes.
Okay.
And they've been in my. And they're 8 feet tall.
Yeah,
How
I would
tall-
have just
yeah.
gotten like a U-Haul or something and thrown them in.
Well, I didn't. I thought. Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the idea was to do a video to Cher's song. From the movie Burlesque. You haven't seen The Last of Me Yet, which I bawled my eyes out when that song was playing in the movie. And I was going to touch the mirror, and because I had 2 of them, I could have them back to back.
Yes.
So it was going to be able to go through. I was going to break one and go through. But anyway.
So that's quite a writing prompt for you.
Yes.
My goodness.
She just wrote an entire screenplay.
Yes.
She did.
With the book trailer all wrapped in there. Because Deb has actual mirrors.
job.
Yeah.
But the reality is, all I've really done is drive to Boston and get the
2
mirrors. I
mirrors.
haven't done all of
Yeah,
that.
we got a bunch of crap in our
Yeah,
basement
we do have a
that
lot
we're
of
never
crap.
going to use.
I think crap equals prop. Props.
Yeah, we have a lot of props. We have a lot of
A
props.
lot of props.
That's
Yeah.
what we can tell people. It will be
That's
less
what they are,
embarrassing.
props, than boxes. of
Sorry
things.
for all the props hanging around.
Right.
in the
Yes, doesn't
basement.
it sound better? Doesn't it sound better? Backstage,
Yeah.
with a lot of props.
But if I were to do the mirror, mirror on the wall, just the way you said it, I would do mirror, mirror on the wall, and then I would try to imagine seeing all the different selves of the parts that I've been. Debbie the daughter, Debbie the mother, Debbie the
Yep.
first grader, Debbie the 7th grader.
So
I
all
would
the
like to have all of them
reflections.
appear in the mirror as a big family meeting.
So you'd rewrite Well-Behaved Women Coming Undone.
No, but
Again.
Is that?
Except you're in a mirror instead of over a donkey.
you're thinking of the memoir.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yes. He hasn't read the memoir. He hasn't read Well-Behaved Woman either. Anyway, sorry about that. I didn't mean to get sidetracked.
No, but
No, this
see,
is
I
what
mean,
it's supposed
look,
to do.
That's
Look,
one
it
simple
sparked
writing prompt that
Yes.
sparked 3 very different,
Right.
writing processes.
And the same writing prompt you could use multiple times. If you had 5, you could do 5 days a week.
Sure.
And just get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you could tie it into the book that you're writing. Hint, hint.
Good point.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. All right.
Well, actually, in the beginning of yours, in the very beginning of your memoir, you are at the
I'm
salon.
looking in a mirror.
You're looking in the
Yes.
mirror at the salon, right?
Sweaty and defeated
With the
Yeah.
makeup
I know.
My makeup has
dripping off.
melted into
Melted.
the crack of my neck.
Yes,
love that.
yes.
I
But
love that.
that's a feeling of being exhausted and tired and worn down that every single person at every age has experienced. So by starting your book, in my opinion, there,
Right,
you're
you
drawing
relate.
on. Yes, everybody can relate
Everybody's
to
gotta
when you
relate to
haven't
that.
felt good about yourself.
I mean, maybe not Jonathan. I don't know if he's ever worn purple eyeshadow that's, melted
Oh.
into the crease of his neck.
I'm
You're,
sure in the prop
you're
box
making
he
an
has some of
assumption
that.
you probably shouldn't be making.
Yeah.
Right now.
the other night he wore a purple suit.
That
with an
doesn't surprise
orange
me.
Shirt.
Yeah, well,
Totally
we know
does
that.
not
No,
surprise
it was
me.
gorgeous.
But did he have
Yes.
the purple eyeshadow on?
Nobody had purple shoes.
Okay.
And if he, would you want to wear eyeshadow? Anyway, okay. Let's see. Do you
I
have
am
any?
in the market for size 14 3-inch stiletto heels, but that's for a different project.
Is that for to dance and to show women that you can dance as well as they can in heels?
I want to see if I can. I'm not showing anybody anything. I've never
Right.
You have
done
to
it.
practice
Wow.
Okay.
first.
Well, Albert O'Hara did do it. We had a woman who was she was quite a large woman, very, very attractive, but very large, like 6'3", And so he said he could do it. And she said, I don't believe you. And she took off her shoes and she handed them to him and he put them on, beep, beep, boop. And he walked around better than every single woman in that studio.
Wow.
Albert O'Hara. He was the first man who pivoted me. Hi, Albert. I miss you.
There's a writing prompt.
All right, moving right along.
Oh.
Deb, what do you have for us?
All right. Well, the first thing I have is sometimes what I did is I did the ones that work for me.
Okay.
So I wrote. And so sometimes if I wake up in the morning, and I like to write in the morning, even though I'm not a morning person, that is when I write the best. And if I am having trouble getting started, I will say, okay, you only get one word and you just go into your body and you say, how am I feeling? What's the feeling that's kind of pervasive through my body? And let's say it's lonely or it's sad or it's excited, whatever that word is. I think to my work in progress and I think where does that feeling show up in the book? And I write that scene. So
How do you pull that feeling? Do you have words
in
a jar, or you just...
I just kind of go into my body and I say one
and
word.
whatever kind of bubbles up. Okay.
And it's not I don't describe it. I don't explain it. I don't think about it. And I don't, because if I do that, then I get distracted. Oh, if let's say the word is sad. Oh, why am I feeling sad? Oh, I'm worried about my mother. Oh, I'm worried about my mother because this. And then I can't write because now I'm off on a tangent.
Notice how she doesn't ask me, because the word 9 out of 10 times would be cranky first thing in the morning.
For you?
For her? Or
Me
for
describing you. I would say cranky.
Only if he
and
talks to me.
That would be...
That's right.
I mean,
We've
we have a
discussed this
rule.
before.
Right.
He should not be talking to you.
Right. He's pretty good. He
Just
doesn't.
cook for you. Do not talk. Do not speak.
I don't really, I don't want him to cook in the morning either. Just get out of my house.
My gosh. I want Jonathan to cook in the morning.
Yeah, same.
Just
Anyway.
saying.
Yeah,
All right,
I
so
know
that you have that one word.
Yes. So that
You kind of go deep and get that one.
And then it might not be, let's say I'm writing and I was supposed to write a happy scene. Let's say that's where I am in the book, but what I'm feeling that day is sad. Well, then I'm not going to write happy very well. So instead of writing what I was supposed to write or what's in order, I go to later in the book when I know she's sad.
You are so feelings driven. Like you really let that kind of dictate even what you're going to write about that day.
I know.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
I have to
me.
cover that up. A couple of
I'm sorry.
Because we're both business owners, we have to like snuff that out sometimes.
Right.
Like, doesn't matter. Like, you need to suck it up, Buttercup. You need to do it.
If you need
But
to write the
that's
happy
awesome.
scene, you are writing the happy scene,
Yeah.
even
Right.
if it's...
Yeah,
Right.
but it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Right, and
It
you're not
does.
going to write it that well. And
She
so,
has minimal control, too, over her feelings. Minimal.
oh my Lord.
She can hold it off. She's got to go into Starbucks and get her coffee. But when she comes back out, there is a designated time for crying, because crying has to happen right now.
Okay, I don't know why we have to talk about yesterday.
Just peeling back the layers, baby. Just peeling back the layers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
All
good,
right.
though.
That
Makes
is good
sense.
stuff. What else you
Okay.
got?
What else you
Okay.
got?
The other thing I do is, because sometimes when you wake up and for me, sometimes there's this feeling of pressure, especially, I think, for me, once I got published, there's pressure of, I have to get that next book, and I have to write the same type of book. I wrote women's fiction, so I should write women's fiction because that's what, theoretically I'm good at. And so sometimes the freedom and the joy doesn't feel there anymore. So I will say to myself, okay, if I could write...
That must be something that happens when you've published 2 books, Shelley.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm listening. I'm going to re-listen to this podcast.
Yes.
and so you have the feeling of, I personally have the feeling of pressure rather than joy. And I don't like that. I don't really work well that way. I work better when I'm feeling
Joyful,
joy.
yeah.
And so I say, okay, if you could write anything you want today, because that is my happy place. I would say, I want to write about a girl and she goes to Argentina and she does the dance and she wears red shoes and and I get excited again. And then I remember, wait, I love writing. And then I don't care. And then I don't care what it is
So
I'm
you
working
give
on.
yourself permission, basically. The prompt is almost giving yourself permission to write whatever you want.
It brings me back to, I absolutely love writing. And so it takes me away from what I should write, and it reminds me that it doesn't matter that I should write it, because I really do want to write it. So that works well for me. And then my third thing is, sometimes now, not very often, because I do love writing, I pretty much can write almost anytime, anywhere, anyhow, about anything you wanted me to write about it. So every once in a while, though, something will, and I realize it's when it's the most honest, is sometimes when it's the hardest. And, my Seeds of Wisdom, I've been working on the Lost Lamb. I have the cover done. I've mentioned it before. I've worked harder on these. I think it's 800 words. I have spent probably 35 hours on 800 words, which sounds impossible. How would you even do that? But this story is it's really about me, where I am, sort of, although it's a little lamb. So this time I thought, well, I need a little lamb. I need a little lamb to look at on my desk.
You do.
Even though I had the cover done by an artist, Danielle, who did an amazing, beautiful job, And I have that on my desk, but that didn't seem to be enough. So then what I did is I crocheted this, and we'll post pictures, but I crocheted this little lamb, and it made me so happy. And I had her sit on my desk. But then what she looked like to me is Chucky the lamb. Remember the Chucky the killer with the thing?
Oh, yeah.
And so I felt kind of had a knife in her thing, and she was like, "Write my story, bitch." And I thought, okay, you need
Which then created pressure.
Exactly. So I said, okay, you need to back up. I did add this little flower headband. I thought that made her a little prettier.
Soften her up a little.
But then I got a pattern online from Etsy, and I made this little lamb, and I gave her a little heart that says "Stay true." And I just finished her 2 nights ago, and she just makes me so happy every time I look at her.
So you created a physical writing prompt.
Yes.
You wanted to write the lamb story.
I felt like
you needed a physical representation of what that might look like.
Yes, because I was getting stuck in what I was trying to say, and I thought I've got to remember theoretically this isn't my story, even though it is, but I'm trying to tell it through this character.
Yep.
So I felt like I needed to see her separate from me. And so by seeing her, now it's her story. And so, and it's going back to the editor today. I think I'm almost happy. I'm almost satisfied.
That's brilliant. I mean, it's a physical
It's like
writing
art
prompt.
therapy.
It's
And also the hands. For me, writing feels very musical. It feels very
Lyrical, yes.
And I feel like my fingers. I once had a psychic tell me something about I was going to be creating, and she did this as if I was playing the piano. And at that time, I was the competitive ballroom dancer, and I thought, well, I'm creating. And when she did this, I thought, that's how I type. That's how I feel when I'm typing.
Right.
And so for me, the tangibleness, the feeling, because she's hand sewn, every stitch is by my hand. The feeling of putting the needle in and out and then having her come to fruition in front of my eyes with my own hands helped me.
Well, that leads me to a thought about there was a scene in my memoir where I'm at my family's camp on a lake in New Hampshire, and I'm sitting in an Adirondack chair. And actually that last summer when I was working on the book a lot, I put that Adirondack chair out. I sat in it. I had my glass of wine, and it helped me write all the things that I was kind of seeing from that perspective that had happened years before. So it was like, just putting your body, whether it's sewing or going to that place and just sitting there for a while to help get those juices flowing, and actually putting yourself in that experience as best you can.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to think about, what do I need? What do I need to help my writing? So we can go online and Google prompts and things like that. But like you said, that the 365, the one you need might not be in there. But if you really think about, what do I need to help me with this?
Right, then you find one.
Right.
I thought that you mentioned the psychic. That might be a cool writing prompt too. Like I sat down across from the psychic.
What would she tell me, right?
Yes, and what would she tell me?
That
I don't
would be
know.
a good one.
I kind of like the idea of spending the next 30 days trying to learn how to crochet so I can make an animal. But then it's going to be 30 days to figure out what animal. So I got 2 months before I have to write again. I think the writer's block will be gone by then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This was
But
definitely.
for you, what would it be for you? Is there like a certain cigar that when you smell it or you start to smoke it might kind of bring up some memories or something that you could write about?
I honestly have never, ever
Had a
experienced writer's block ever under any circumstances.
Really?
For any reason. When it's time for me to write, I write. That's it.
That's it. You just turn it on.
I don't always feel like I have to write. But when I do, it's there. I just write.
Interesting.
So when is your book coming out?
Never.
See, that helps. So for him, it's just
It does.
right when he wants.
Yeah.
Although I
Write
still,
when I want, what I want to write,
right.
what I feel like I need to do. And when I get inspiration, I just write it down.
Yep.
I don't consider myself a writer per se, but I feel like I can write well, and I enjoy what I enjoy reading. Years from now, I'll read what I wrote for this last thing, and I'll enjoy reading it. And I'm writing for myself, I guess.
Where is you? Remember that poem you wrote for me that I framed?
On the wall going up the stairs.
Oh, okay.
It's on the right-hand side. It's the
With
second
the
page.
light, like with the spotlight on it.
Yeah. It's like an art gallery right there.
I'm not throwing him under the bus. He didn't frame it and put it. I did.
Oh, you were getting points?
No. He wrote a beautiful thing, and so I framed it, and I just off it right now couldn't think of where it was.
But listen, couldn't writing prompts? I mean, they're not just used for if you have writer's block, right? Couldn't they be used to, if we, like you said, to talk about emotion? You need to
Yes.
do a section of the book and you're having trouble kind of really getting at that emotion. So you maybe use the writing prompt that you were talking about. Or
And
just
plus-
to practice. Like if you're not maybe working on something, we know all writers should be writing as much as possible. So you just do it as kind of a fun activity.
Right. And
Get your
sometimes
imagination
you
going.
just need how to get going that day. I certainly,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I ever really have writer's block. I just have trouble getting the story the way I want it.
Right. So you could use a prompt to help you with
Right.
that,
Right.
with a specific section. All right.
Leander, what are yours?
Well, one that I had was, it's actually a guided meditation, visualization that I used to use when I was doing social work stuff, called Cloud to a Special Place. Jonathan, stop snoring. You're going to love this.
He's on the cloud.
And I think I did read it on here like last year or something.
I think you did.
But you imagine yourself in a soft cloud, and you start using all your senses, like what does it feel like? How does your body feel? And the cloud takes you to your special place. So whatever that might be for you, by a stream, on top of a mountain. And again, you use all 5 senses. What does it smell like there? What does it feel like? What do you see? What do you hear? Do you hear like a city traffic? Do you hear birds? And instead of doing that as sort of a meditation, do that as a writing prompt.
You did do that on here, and Deb
Right.
didn't get off the cloud. She liked the cloud.
She
wanted
stayed
to stay
on the cloud.
She didn't go to her happy place. Her happy place was the cloud.
Yeah. Well, that would be okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is
Who
about
wouldn't love to
using
be-
your senses.
It is. And it's a good way to kind of, and you're supposed to do that when you're visualizing anyway, but I think the same holds true for writing, is use all 5 senses. And this would kind of prompt you to do that. I wanted to just mention one that Deborah Schwartz had said, because that
Oh, yeah.
was kind of another physical representation and great for maybe nonfiction writing, was she started with all the scars on my body and just left it there.
Right. As a beginning.
Yeah.
And then you fill it in.
And you weren't with us that
what
day.
would you say?
So what might you say? All the scars on my body.
Riveting.
I don't think
This
Jonathan.
is
Right?
riveting.
You're on the edge of your seat, aren't you, Jonathan?
Jonathan, what would
You're
yours
on the
be?
edge of your
Because
seat.
you weren't our producer that day.
There was a reason I wasn't your producer. That
Okay. Well, yes.
Well, would you?
I'm not playing your
All right.
writing game.
All right. Well, okay, good. Well,
Wow.
All right. Well, Shell, if you come up with something in the future, let us know.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
And then my last one is the one that got away. And you just write about a love or a loss or something like that. Love that got away.
We have lots to think about.
We do.
yeah.
We do. And thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us next week as we get grounded and talk about how to pull the reader into your imaginary world. Please check out the Writer's Block NH Facebook and the Writer's Block podcast on your favorite podcast catcher. If you'd like to hear this episode again or share it with a friend, head on over to the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. That's UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. Thank you for listening, and we hope we inspired and empowered you to tell your own story.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.